Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of r/malicious compliance. Take my ID and ask me what the F are you going to about it? Okay. So when I was a wee superb raccoon, but still superb. I was in the Navy. Recently 21, we decided to go to a bar that had a decent local cover band. So we show up and I present my ID. Grant you, clean cut and clothes shaved, I did not look 21. But my out-of-state ID was no good and all I had was my military ID. Doorman decides he can F with me. This is fake. I am keeping it. My eyes bugged out. Dude, that is a military ID. Give it back. Nope, mine now. $20 bucks or F off. I can't get back on base without it. I said. Then you better cough up $20 or F off. Oh, I see. This is a shakedown. F off, huh? Okay. Cue malicious compliance. Buddy who drove and used state ID drove us back. We go into the officer of the day's office to report my lost or stolen ID. Old as a crusty old crap, but fair. Actually a Mustang, he takes orders from the president and God, and we are not sure of the president. He might tell him to F off if it is a stupid idea. He listens. My buddy backs my story. His eyes narrow in an evil way. Chief. Can you come up here? I got a present for you. I started to shake a little. Am I headed for a few days in the brig for losing my ID? F, there goes any chance of a bump to E4. Seaman Raccoon here says the doorman at Joe's took his ID and wants $20. Pull a driver and one of those jarheads at the gate and go down there and sort it out. The chief looks at me like fresh meat. Come on you two, we are going for a ride. So we all pile in the van with a couple of Marines in BDU and sidearms. It is quiet on the way there. Chief don't look too happy. Can't believe I got a deal with this crap. Well, at least I don't have to sit at the desk all night. So we roll up. Place is pretty packed. Doorman don't look so tough as the chief stalks up to him like a storm cloud spitting lightning and two armed Marines flanking him. I am hanging back. Raccoon. This the guy with your ID? Yes, Chief. Chief gets up toe-to-toe with him. Chief is short and wide, but is built like a brick wall. Jim Muscle Doorman takes a step back, but dude has nowhere to go in the little entranceway. Give me his ID now, or I will start looking for it myself. ID is produced. Handed to me. Doorman ignored. Chief pulls the door open, looks at the room, motions for the Marines to make a hole to the bar, make it wide. They do so, calmly shouting to move people out of the way as the music and talk dies down. Chief grabs a chair, stands on it, then uses his parade ground voice. All active duty military. This site is now on the prohibited list. Pay your tab and get out. He gets down, walks out with Marines tailing him, and half the bar follows them out. Very few are active duty this far from base, but many are reserve or retired. They don't like crap like this either. Place went on the list and was still there when I transferred out 6M or so later. Yep. I F off. Hard and fast. Next story. You want to have girls over all the time? Okay. Have it your way. The setup. I have a 2-bedroom house. I decided that I wanted to rent out the other bedroom in the house to make some money on space I wasn't really using after COVID. So I fixed up the place really nice. The tenant gets private, semi-attached bathroom. Bathroom is actually outside the bedroom, but I put up drapes between the bedroom and bathroom so tenant can walk between without me seeing. Common consumables. I pay for toilet paper, paper towels, laundry supplies, kitchen supplies, etc. I create the lease. The lease is very bare bones. It just says you get a room at this property. You pay this much per month. Landlord covers all utilities. Your lease is X months long. I created the ad. In the ad, I mentioned how it's okay to have guests over, but keep it to no more than twice per month. I did not put this into the lease agreement. You can see where this is going. I do a showing for a prospect, T. I tell him the guest policy and he seems just fine with it. I do the rest of the showing and all seems grand. He signs the lease agreement and moves in. The problem. The first month is grand. Anyone can fool someone for a month. But eventually you return to bad habits. His bad habit was women. He would have women over 4 to 5 nights per week. I did not appreciate this. I pulled him aside to tell him, hey, you're having a lot of girls over. You need to reduce how many girls over, or if you're willing to pay a bit extra for having all these girls over, I won't say a thing. He initially agrees with it. The next day, he calls me down and asks to speak with me at the dining room table. It's T and his girl du jour. T begins arguing, how can you ask for more money when that's not in the lease agreement? You can't ask for that. I told him the guest policy was in the ad and that we spoke about it when he came here. He said, yeah, but you can't ask for that. If it's not in the lease agreement, you can't do that. The guest policy isn't in the lease agreement either, so I pay rent. I can have over whoever whenever I want. G piped in, you just need to take the L on this one and write better lease agreements. I replied to G, you're not on the lease agreement, so I don't give a crap what you think about it. I turned to T, it was in the ad. We also talked about it when you came here. You knew about this. T replied, whoa man, calm down. It's just 6 months, man. That's my lease term. I'll be out of your hair in 6 months. I replied, why can't you stay at her place? G said, that's none of your business. Shut up, G. I don't care what you think. You want a problem, T? You got one. This is not cool and you know it. Why does she have to be here 5 nights a week? She practically lives here. I signed a lease with you, T, not with her. Why is she here? He shrugged, can't help it. Not in the lease agreement, man. That's what lease agreements are for. I was infuriated. We talked about this. He's choosing to follow the lease agreement. Okay, fine, what's a guy to do? I want him gone. I don't want T and G teaming up against me in my own house. They walked upstairs and turned on the loud music in their room. Later in the evening, G was downstairs cooking something on the stove by herself using my pots and pans. She's cooking for herself in my house. She's not even a tenant, but she sure is acting like one. G tried striking up a friendly conversation with me, but I just gave her absolute silence for 10 minutes while I cooked. I took my food upstairs. This is war. I'm going to follow the lease agreement to the letter. If I advertised a feature in the ad but it wasn't in the lease agreement, that thing is gone. The compliance. Every day I took something away. I first started by removing all the common consumables from the house. He texted me later, man, you removed all the consumables? You need to come down on the rent. I replied, not in the lease agreement. He said, it don't got to be like this. I removed the drapes between his room and the private bathroom. I took away the chairs for the dining room table. I then shut off the clothes washer and dryer, circuit breakers were in my room, and left taped up the location of a local laundromat. I also became an absolutely filthy roommate. I didn't clean anything. I left bags of garbage wherever I felt like. I never cleaned the kitchen and left the sink full of dishes. Please man, can you clean up? No. I had maid service. Cancelled that. I informed him of the change. Can you come down on the rent, man? Not in the lease agreement. You agreed to a rental price. Come on. I turned off the breaker to the stove and left out a wall outlet single pot electric plate for him to use. I turned off the microwave. Not in the lease agreement either. I actually started feeling bad for him. G started coming around less and less as I made the living situation worse and worse. Finally, he texted me, do you want me to move out? I replied, yes, when are you leaving my house? He said, end of the month. You'll let me break the lease? I replied, of course. He left at the end of the month. I had my house back. I made for sure to make my next lease agreement way more specific about everything. Next story. My dad told me to just walk home, so I did. A long time ago, in the faraway year of 1999, I was a young 11-year-old boy finishing my last year elementary school. Right before my birthday, which was in May, my parents called the family together for a meeting. They told us my mom had gotten a new job and we would need to move. We weren't moving too far away, only about an hour, but that still meant moving away from my friends and going to a completely different middle school than the one I thought I'd be going to. Elementary school wrapped up and we moved to our new house in early July. In August, my parents and I got to take a tour of the school and meet the principal and some of the teachers. That was when we learned that there weren't any buses that passed our new neighborhood. It was actually close to the school, so that meant I would be walking to and from there every day. My parents weren't too thrilled about this, but it was only 15 to 20-minute walk and there was a path, so they came around on the idea pretty quickly. At the time, both of my parents worked full-time and 5 days a week. My mom worked Monday through Friday and my dad worked Monday through Thursday and Saturday. Trust me, this is relevant. Since my older sister was away in college full-time and they didn't trust me and my brother alone, my parents found a babysitter to be there when my brother and I would get home and watch us until my parents got home. My brother was 2 years younger than me and in the local elementary school. The school year started and in early September, we got a massive heat wave that reached highs of like 96 degrees for a couple days. The middle school was also an old building and most of it was not air-conditioned. I only had 2 classes that had AC in the classroom throughout the day. At the end of those days, I was tired and not in any mood to walk an additional 20 minutes in the heat before getting home, so I used vending machine snack money to call the babysitter from the payphone. Cell phones were definitely not used by kids in those days. The babysitter, thinking he was just not letting me suffer in the heat, came to pick me up and I would do some homework before Batman Beyond and Pokemon came on. I did try to call home 2 more times over the next 2 weeks when it was hot. The second time I got the sitter again, the third time I called was on a Friday. My dad answered. He was not happy with me. He told me it wasn't that hot, 85 that day, that I shouldn't call the sitter away from the house and that I had to start growing up. He told me to walk home and we would talk more when I got there. So I walked home. I got a lecture and was told to not call the sitter again to be picked up. I said okay and told him I wouldn't call the sitter or him again to be picked up. 2 weeks later, at the end of September, a hurricane passed through the area. Halfway through the day at school, it really started coming down. It got so bad that they let us out of school a half hour early, like that was gonna save us. By this time though, a lot of roads were flooding and the line for payphones was long. I remembered what my dad told me a couple weeks ago, so I walked home. It took me almost 30 minutes to walk home from school that day and I was drenched by the time I got home. The rain was coming down so hard I couldn't see more than 5 feet in front of me. The roads were so flooded that the only way to drive in was with a car that had four-wheel drive. When I got home, both my parents, Mom got out of work early due to the storm, were there panicking because they hadn't heard from either the school or me. I just walked in through our garage, soaking wet, and said, "Hi Mom, hi Dad, I'm home." After they got over the initial shock and relief of seeing me home. My parents and I had this conversation. Mom, how did you get home? Me, I walked. Mom, why? Me, Dad told me to. Mom, when? We didn't get any calls from you or the school today. Me, well, a couple weeks ago, I called the sitter a few times and asked for a ride home since it was hot. The last time I called, I got Dad. He told I had to just walk home from now on and not call for a ride again. Dad, I implied that there could be exceptions. Me, you didn't say that. My mom turned on my dad and just told me to dry myself off and put my wet clothes in the dryer. I was drying myself off and I could hear them arguing. It was louder than the rain. When I was done and put my clothes in the dryer, my parents talked to me and told me I was allowed to call home but only for emergencies. The next day, Saturday, my dad took me out to Blockbuster and I was told I could rent up to 5 movies for myself. He also paid for pizza that night and I got a whole pepperoni pizza for myself. That pizza lasted 2 days and no one else was allowed to touch it. My dad never lived that down. Good times. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel or posts.